Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I've learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I was just sitting here as I was uploading videos on my other channels, and I thought, you know what? I've taken a couple days off. I think I'm going to film a video over on my Peterisms channel. So I was reading through some of the comments, and it's actually the most recent comment on this channel. It's from 4 hours ago. The first comment that I read, I have it pulled up here right on the computer, and I was like, okay, I've talked about this quite often in my vlog and over here, but I don't know that I've ever done a dedicated video talking specifically about this. I probably have in reference to a meditation that I've read or something like that. So I want to read this comment, and then I want to share with you the process that I went through. Because it's probably, as far as relationships go, one of the greatest lessons I have ever learned in relationships. So here's the comment. Somebody said to me, Peter, can you do a video on here about breaking the habit of identifying yourself through your partner in relationship? How did that show up for you? How did you work on it and ultimately move past it? How did you break the codependency on Alex in previous relationships? What steps did you take to work on that inside of you? And, you know, great question. Fantastic question. I don't even know until I was in this relationship with Alex that I even thought that identifying myself through my partner was a problem. You know, I talk a lot about codependency over here and being dependent on people and things like that, and that's something that I've had in me ever since I was a very young child. Needing the validation and acceptance of others is part of codependency. I think that goes with having childhood trauma, or being an adult child of an alcoholic, or being bullied. I think it's multifaceted. It can happen for many different reasons. I think it can also happen in very, very loving homes, depending. I mean, I've seen it happen with, or talked about it with friends of mine who, you know, I was an only child, but I've had it, you know, with friends of mine who, they were the middle child, and they felt like the older child got all the, you know, the freedom, and the younger child was babied, and so they got kind of lost in the middle. Or, you know, vice versa, the baby will feel like the older two children got all the attention, or the oldest child will feel like the younger two children can get away with everything, or depending on how many children there are in the family and things like that. I think it also happens in work environments. I think it also even happens just with friendships and things like that. You know, that there have been times in my life where I feel like my friend's giving all this person so much attention, but they like never talk to me anymore, you know, like what's going on. And so I think that it is human nature to develop these kind of dependent relationships, not even necessarily codependent relationships, but dependent relationships on people where we define ourselves through them, you know. For example, my best friend, Tawny Jean. Like, I don't know who I would be if I wasn't her best friend. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's not necessarily in a negative way. I just, you know, I don't, like, I remember the movie How Stella Got Her Groove Back, when Whoopi Goldberg, Angela Bassett's best friend, passes away. And at her funeral, Angela Bassett says in the eulogy, "Who am I without my best friend?" When my mom's best friend, her friend Diane, passed away like 3 years before my mom did of cancer, I remember coming into this condo. My mom was sitting on the couch that was then right here, and she just was completely stoic. And I said, are you okay? And, you know, she just was like, I don't know who I am without her in my life, basically. Those weren't her exact words. I can't remember her exact words. They were a little bit more poignant than that. But I think we often define ourselves through other people and our relationships with other people. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, right? Like, I think when I look at the grand scheme of things in the world of what is important and what isn't important, and that our moments with people and the relationships that we have with people are so much more profound than most of the experiences that we have in our lives, right? Like, I think at the end of our lives, those are the things that we look back on, right? Or throughout our lives, you know, when somebody passes away, those are the things that we think of. When somebody's sick, those are the things that we think of. When we have a fight with one of our friends, you know, when we leave a job, we think all these relationships we're leaving behind, or you graduate from college or whatever, you know? And so I think it's really, really natural to define ourselves through our relationships in our life. I think it becomes unhealthy when, you know, I said that about my friend Tanya, like, who am I if Tanya's not there? I think with a friendship like Tanya, and I'm not wishing this obviously on her at all, but if tomorrow we had some huge falling out, or she wasn't in my life anymore, or God forbid something tragic happened, I think I inherently know that I would be okay. I think I know that, it would be really, really difficult. And I would grieve the loss of that friendship for a very long time. But eventually I would be able to be okay. I think I know that, right? In relationships, I think, romantic relationships, I've literally at times felt, and I will be in complete transparency, honest, been on my knees begging people to stay in very sick relationships that I didn't need to be doing that in, but didn't know who I was if I didn't have that person validating me. For a very long time in my life, I didn't know who I was if I wasn't good enough for a man to love me, which I think is why when I came out, I immediately was like relationship. I constantly wanted a boyfriend. And I think to some degree, that was for me to normalize that process for myself. That I had grown up and been in high school with all these people that had girlfriends and whatever, or boyfriends, and all my girlfriends had boyfriends. And I'd never been able to have that. So now that I could have it and be proud of it, I think it normalized that for me. I think it also said that I was good enough if somebody loved me. If somebody loved me and desired me and wanted to be in a relationship with me, then that said, wow, I'm worthy. I didn't need to do the work on myself to be worthy because somebody else was, giving me the quick pass to that. Somebody was saying, you're worthy. And I just took that and ran with it, no matter at what expense. No matter if that meant that I was in an abusive relationship, no matter if that meant that I was in a verbally abusive relationship where I was talked down to, it didn't really matter. I was willing to accept that just to be loved. And, I can remember years and years and years ago when Tyra Banks had her talk show and she did this whole episode on love does not hurt. And I can remember watching that and just being like, man, I put myself in a lot of situations. She was talking about severe physical violence in relationships, but I can remember thinking to myself, which I've experienced, not severe, but some of that, but in way past relationships, like before I got sober. But I was like, I can remember thinking to myself, I've allowed myself to be talked to in horrible ways in relationships and let it slide at the expense that I just wanted that person to be beside my side, because if they were beside me, then that meant to the rest of the world that I was okay. Which is such a joke, right? Because somebody that loves you doesn't speak to you that way. I had a friend of mine years ago that said, when my husband speaks to me in a negative way, I say to him, you obviously must not, I didn't say this, my friend said this to me. I say to my husband, when you speak to me that way, you must not think very highly of me because you think it's okay to speak to me that way. And I've always remembered what she said, right? That when people speak to us in negative ways, what they're saying is they don't think very highly of us because it's okay for them to speak to us that way. It's taken me 51 years of my life to realize it's time for me to stand up for myself, because if I don't, there's not a lot of people out there that will. And even if they will, I think ultimately it takes me standing up for myself to feel confident and to feel strong in my own energy, my own bones and things like that, to do the work to where it feels like, it doesn't feel like pity. It doesn't feel like sympathy. It feels like, hey, like I'm standing up for myself. Like I deserve better, So, I was in a lot of relationships where I defined myself in terms of that relationship. Who am I if I'm not in this relationship? Who am I? And I would hold on to relationships. I would tolerate horrific craps. I'm sure, there are a lot of relationships that I've been in where I was just equally not a great person either in the relationship. So we were staying together for what? The relationship, And I look back on that and I think it was wasted time. Weren't willing to do the work. Neither one of us were willing to do the work to make it better, but wanted to just stay in this chaos. I think part of that also is that I grew up in chaos. I was very comfortable for a long time in chaos. I'm not today, because I've done so much work for peace and serenity that I'm not comfortable in chaos today. So when Alex and I were going through really, really difficult times and almost headed for divorce, and we had started marriage counseling, I remember there was a session. Now, this part I've shared a lot about, but the next part that I'm going to share, I don't think I've maybe shared once in a vlog, but I don't think I've shared a lot. But I was in an individual session with our therapist at the time, so we would see him each individually and then together as a couple. We have a different therapist today because that therapist retired. He got his dream house, a dream job of flipping houses, started his own company and stuff. So we're very happy for him, but our therapist today is amazing. So anyway, I was in a session with him, and I remember he said something to me to the effect of, I can never remember exactly how he said it, but he said something to me to the effect of like, well, how would you be if you and Alex did break up and divorce? And I said, oh, I'd be a mess. Like, I can't even imagine, you know? And he said, but do you think that you would eventually be okay? And my initial response was, no, I would not be okay. I would be a mess. Like, I would never be okay. And I remember he kept on asking me kind of over and over and over again, but do you think that you would eventually be okay? And finally, I kind of just like looked at him and I like got it. It was like that moment of clarity. And I go, well, I mean, eventually. It was like the Tanya thing, right? Like, of course I'm going to like grieve the loss of that relationship and miss her terribly and like, who am I without her? But I know eventually I'm going to be okay. Maybe I can say that today about Tanya because I've gone through what I went through with Alex. Maybe I couldn't have said that 5 or 10 years ago. I don't know. But you know, finally I got it. It was like a moment of clarity, and I realized what he was saying to me was, you're gonna be okay, you know, whether Alex is in your life or not. And I got it. And so he said, so you don't think you'll ever be okay? And I was like, no, like eventually I would be okay. He goes, so eventually you would move on and, you know, have your own place and, you know, maybe get in another relationship. And I was like, I kind of thought about it for a second. I could like imagine that. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, so you don't need Alex in your life. That was hard because for me, the concept of love had always been depending on people or needing somebody, right? It hadn't been a choice. Love wasn't a choice for me. It was dependency. And so I said, no, I guess I don't need Alex in my life. And the way that he turned it was so profound and pivotal to how I look at love and romantic relationships today. And he said, so you don't need Alex and Alex doesn't need you. And my first reaction was just resistance to that statement. Like, of course he needs me and I need him and we need to be together, right? But I looked at him and I said, no, like, he goes, you will keep on breathing, you will live, you will be successful in life without Alex by your side. And I'm going through my head and I'm thinking, oh, I can imagine seeing Alex like, you know, out with other people and dating somebody else and getting another relationship. And would I ever have that? I mean, I'm scripting it all out in my head, right? But I knew that what he was saying was true, and I was like, no, like, I would eventually be okay. Like, I would have new friends and maybe date somebody else and whatever, you know? Although, today, I think, I say this, but then I don't know. Like, Alex and I were just talking about this the other day, if, like, one of us had passed away, and, like, what we would want for the other person, which I think it's important to have those conversations with each other, you know? And, so I said to him, no, to the therapist, I said, no, I would be okay. Like, I know I would be okay. And he said, so you don't need Alex. And I go, no, I don't need Alex. And he goes, and he doesn't need you. Which was like so hard because like I wanted to be needed so bad. And I was like, no, he doesn't need me. He said, so you choose for Alex to be in your life. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, and Alex chooses for you to be in his life. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, isn't that more powerful to you than needing to be with somebody? To actually have the power to choose for them to be in your life? And it was like, it was like this brain moment, right? Like I was like, or this like aha moment. I was like, which I just said something about in my review video. But I was like, wow, like that is powerful. And that was the beginning for me, if you've heard me say this in other videos, that who we talk to on the phone, what TV shows we watch, who we have holidays with, who we go out to dinner with, who we date, who we live with, who are our friends, what YouTube videos we watch, who we watch on YouTube, what music we listen to. We are giving those people literally our life. The seconds, the minutes, the hours, the days. We're literally giving them moments of our life, right? Because we're choosing to give our life to those people. That's powerful. Like that is really, really powerful to me, right? And I realized that and I was like, yeah, like we choose to be together. And that is such a huge thing, right? Is it scary to me that one day Alex might not choose for me to be his person anymore? Or I might not choose for Alex to be my person anymore? Sure, it's scary. I don't want to think that way. But we do the work so that we continue to choose each other over and over and over again. We continue to grow, you know? And then it's like every day you choose it. It's like every day I wake up and I choose to be sober. Every day I wake up and I choose for Alex to be my husband and be in my life. And he chooses for me to be his husband and be in his life. And it was a lot of work, you know? Well, those were not good times for Alex and I. And around that time, I went out to dinner. It was supposed to be Alex and I, Melissa and Jason. And Alex at the last minute was like, I can't go. Because we used to do all this stuff with them as couples. And it was just like things were not good between us. And so Alex didn't go. And so I went out to dinner with Melissa and Jason, our friends. And I said, when I got to dinner, we went to Basbo's Pizza. And this is the part that I haven't ever shared before in videos. I might have shared it in a vlog once or twice, but I don't remember. Jason, who's not a super emotional person, he said to me, and we became friends as couples, and we've always been friends as couples. We met them like a month before we got married, so we've known them now for 12 and a half years. And I remember we met him, and then like the next weekend was our joint bachelor party, and they came to our joint bachelor party the following weekend. But I remember sitting at that dinner table, and I was so sad, and they're like, what's going on? And I told them, I said, I just don't know that we're going to make it, and like things are really bad, and we just started therapy and all this kind of stuff. I'll never forget, Jason just looked at me and like put his fork down, and he just like started crying. He goes, I can't imagine a world where Peter and Alex aren't together. Like, I still, like, that cheers me up, you know? And I think for so long, you know, like, I always saw like Peter and Alex, you know, like a lot of people that know us, like, will say, like, if they'll see me, they'll be like, where's Peter? Because they'll get our names wrong, you know, because, like, they always knew us as, like, a couple and whatever. And I love that. I love that people know Alex and I as a couple, and they know us, you know, so well, and that, you know, all that kind of stuff. But I need and I deserve to be my own person. And he needs and deserves to be his own person with his own accolades and his own fears and his own moments of success and his own moments of sadness, his own grief, his own private moments. He deserves all of that, and I deserve all of that too, you know? And then we come to the middle, and we choose to share that with each other. That is powerful. That is love. And that's what we choose today. So thank you for this question. This was a great question. I hope that helped. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys so much, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.